Welcome back to the AMP'D UP211 Podcast, where we dive into stories of people who have been pushed to the edge and somehow found their way back stronger. Today's guest is Gini Thomas, and her story is one that changes you. In 2012, a driver ran a stop sign and shattered everything she knew. The crash took the life of her husband, Joe, and left Gini fighting through 20 surgeries. Gini would go on to undergo osseointegration, rebuild her strength from the ground up, care for her family during her own recovery, and ultimately become an advocate, educator, and an ambassador for Integrum. Today, we're going deeper than the headlines. This is a conversation about identity, grief, reinvention, and the moment someone decided, this isn't the end of my story. This is Gini Thomas, and welcome to the AMP'D UP211 Podcast. Hey everyone, I want to welcome to the show. Very exciting. Gini Thomas is here. Good morning.
Good morning, sunshine.
It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you as well. It's been, like 6-8 months? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And I'm one of those fortunate people that got to meet you at LPF's symposium. And that was an awesome experience getting to know you, but I just didn't feel like there was enough of Gini Thomas that day. And, you know, when I saw an opening to maybe get you, coerce you, convince you to come back on the show, here you are. And
yeah, you had to twist my arm real hard to get me here. Yeah.
Well, I could have twisted your leg, and I probably could have figured out that cool thing you do on socials when you just go click and it just kind of comes off.
Yank it right off. Yeah.
It's really neat. You know, the thing I think I'm most impressed from you, that you've been so transparent with your accident. So many people that follow you and know about you and how you came, you know, to this community that we're both a part of through a traumatic event. And you've been so graceful and so wonderful about sharing that. And there are times where I wonder to myself, and maybe this is like a two-part question, is part of that being able to explain it in the way that you do, which is somewhat, I perceive, sort of at ease. You know, the events of this tragic, you know, motorcycle accident that not only, you know, left you with, you know, many, many surgeries and eventual amputation, but also, you know, losing your husband. Does any of this, meaning these talks, how eloquent you've been in this space, is any of that either therapy, or is there any part of that that is so raw that it's still, to this day, hard to talk about?
I don't know if I would say it's necessarily therapy telling my story. I think I've gotten to the point where I've told it so many times, it doesn't hurt as much to say it. Now, I will say there are certainly days, even now, over 13 years since the wreck, that I'm just having a heavy grief day. And if somebody were to ask me at the grocery store just out of the blue about it, I might have a more difficult time talking about it. But especially if I'm at an event or somewhere where I'm expecting to have to answer it, it's not really difficult to talk about. I think no amputation story is a fun and happy story.
Yeah.
Every single one is traumatic in its own way. So I think being open and letting people know it's okay to share that trauma, and that you don't have to compare your trauma to mine. It's just saying, hey, we all have tough things. This is my tough. I'll tell you about mine. But everybody has tough things. So it's okay to talk about it and process through it.
And I appreciate you being vulnerable in this moment to say, yeah, I have grieving days. There are days where it just, you know, hits me a certain way. and I'm not immune to it. But I understand the prep piece. Like, yeah, I'm prepared to speak about it. So
Right.
it's sort of rehearsed in a way.
Right. Right.
And you can sort of go on autopilot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, and then this happened, and I know the chronology here. I know how all this played out. But, I would agree that there are components, there's sort of like bits and pieces like shrapnel that still exists for everyone
Right.
that's had to deal with a traumatic loss, not only of a limb, but in your case, a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
and someone that, you were a newlywed when this
Yeah.
happened, pretty
It was
much.
it was exactly 17 months. Exactly
Jeez.
17 months from the day we got married.
Yeah, that is an extraordinary set of circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever, and of course I go to this very curious space of, have you ever thought like, well, like, why did I make it and not him?
All the time.
Yeah.
I spent so much time in those early days thinking about the events of that day. What if we had been in my car instead of on the motorcycle? I mean, he had severe injuries. I had severe injuries. His helmet was still on. Mine had been knocked off. I I really questioned everything constantly in those early days.
Your helmet
And
being knocked off would almost lean into the idea that you should have perished,
correct.
not your husband.
It did not make sense to me for a really long time. And there's still days that it doesn't make sense. And you kind of have to put those those questions aside because you will drive yourself crazy. I
Yeah.
can't change what happened. The fact is he's gone. I can't get him back. I am still here.
Yeah.
And I can control what I do with my time here going forward. So
Yeah, very much
I
so.
just have to focus on that and try to move forward the best I can.
Are you at all comfortable talking about who was in the vehicle?
So we were on a motorcycle, and there was just a single driver in the car that hit us. So
And
Joe was driving.
This was running a stop sign, right?
Right. We were on sort of a 4-lane road, and we were on the inside lane, and the guy in the car was pulling out from a side street. And I don't know if he didn't see us, if we were blocked by a car in this lane, but he ran a stop sign, and I could see the car coming towards us, but the way traffic was, the way the highway was, like, there wasn't anywhere for me to bail out, and definitely not enough time for me to formulate a plan
Sure.
on what to do. And
Split second.
I have no idea if Joe realized it. I don't know if he somehow maneuvered the vehicle in a way that he thought it would be less of an impact for me. I those are questions I don't know. I saw the car coming. I blacked out on impact. I woke up, I don't know how much later, sitting in the middle of the street.
Yeah. Yeah, and anyone that follows you as like you said, you've walked a lot of your supporters through that day, and what that was like, and it's very compelling to listen to and to hear you speak so calmly about it. Have you spoken to this person?
No.
So
This
let me ask you.
person, yeah, go
Let me
ahead.
ask you a question. If you could speak to this person, what would you ask them?
I really would ask if he's even given a second thought to us, because I'll tell you, this is a guy who did not have car insurance, ran a stop sign, killed a person, maimed another, tried to flee the scene, and had no charges at all, not a one. I am convinced that the police were actually chasing him when this happened, and that would mean that the city was liable for the wreck.
Oh, okay.
We had a family friend who was an attorney who immediately called to get dispatch records from that day, and those were nowhere to be found. So I kind of think that played into it. This guy was 20 years old at the time. He was a month or two away from turning 21. He has since been in jail for several other things, in and out of jail. So I'm not really sure it's something that even registered with him. I used to try to follow him and his family members on social media, and that wasn't healthy at all.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of me doing that? There's
Well,
no point.
it seems like you've done a really good job of parsing out a lot of those feelings. And
Therapy is helpful.
yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
that's important, to note and to sort of project that advice of, how do we navigate incredibly, difficult emotional landscapes? We need help.
Right.
We need to
I mean,
reach out.
at the end of the day, even if I did talk to this guy, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
It's not going to bring Joe back. It's not going to bring my leg back. It's not going to get me all the money I've had to pay out of pocket back. Like, it's just, I don't think it would do me any good at this point. It probably would make me even more angry. So
Yeah.
I really had to get to a point where I just said, look, I have to put this down and go forward, because me worrying about what he's doing with his life is not going to have any effect on me and my life and what I'm doing moving forward. So
Right.
there's no point in wasting energy on it anymore.
Yeah. No, and that's a very healthy way to sort of, wash a lot of that away, from that psychological burden that we sort of carry around. And I was going to say, I think I would myself, I would find myself very angry,
Oh, I
just
was.
very angry with what had occurred.
Yeah.
And, there's so much about wanting justice in those situations.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you, I haven't talked about this quite as much. But I did go before grand jury to try to have this guy charged with something. I was
yeah,
not looking to put him in jail for the rest of his life. I really did not want to destroy his life. Like I said, he was 20 years old when it happened, but I wanted there to be some sort of consequence. And every single person in there, as I was testifying, was in tears. So I feel like they all voted my way, but at the end of the day, the district attorney has the final say on whether or not he thinks he can bring it to trial, if he thinks he has a shot at that case. And he
Yeah.
decided that he didn't want to do that. And the day that he called me to tell me there would be no indictment, that's my lowest point. I still had my leg at that point, not even an amputee yet, but I wanted to die that day, because I thought, what's the point of moving on in a world like this? I actually made my parents take my weapons away. I owned a couple of firearms at the time because I did not trust myself. I had some Ativan, a lot of other prescriptions in my possession at that time, and I took several Ativan. I had worked in the healthcare industry, so I knew how much to take to not die, but I just wanted to not be conscious for a while. And without telling anyone, I took a bunch of Ativan, and I think I slept for nearly 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a reset for my brain. Not advising anyone to do this at all. It's not smart. I know it's not smart that I did it. Would never do it again. But I woke up thinking, okay, I'm still here, and I have to figure out how to navigate this in a world where there won't be justice. I can either dwell on that and get bogged down in it and make myself miserable and sick, or I can pull myself together and figure out what I have to do to heal myself and move forward. And that's what I chose to do.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing that, because these are the things, I feel especially for someone who, has, such a loyal following, and people that, benefit so much from your content and your perspective, your humor, your education, your advocacy, all of these things that you've so fully engaged. They need to understand that you're a human being, and
Right.
you've been through so much. And, you know, greatness comes from these types of stories. There's a
Sure.
mountain to climb. No one gets to the top without starting at the bottom. And you are a testament to that. And I appreciate you being so willing, to share that. The other curiosity I had was, given the amount of surgeries that you went through, which was just vast, when they were trying to limb salvage and, trying to give you some level of function, was any of that in your mind? Were you 100% on board with that? Like, at least during that period of time, like, yeah, we're trying to fix this. We're trying to fix this. And was any of that in sort of alignment with, well, I lost my husband. I've got to hold on to this part of me.
I don't know if I was trying to hold on to it just to have something to hold on to. When I was first conscious after the wreck, I saw how bad everything looked, and I actually thought to myself, okay, that's probably gone.
Mm.
So I passed out in the ambulance, was on a ventilator for a week, and woke up and, to my surprise, had my leg. And the first day I was fully awake was a Sunday, and my trauma surgeon at UAB in Birmingham, Dr. Will Min, he's at a different hospital now, but he came to the hospital that day on a Sunday and sat at the end of my bed and said, I'm here for as long as you need. I'll answer anything you want to ask. And I said, you really think this leg is going to work again? Like, I saw how bad it was. And he said, I think you have about a 60% chance of being functional with it. It's just going to take a lot of surgeries. And if at any point you're tired of that, you tell me. I'll do whatever you want to do. I think everyone else around me made the decision to try to save my leg because they didn't realize that I already knew Joe was gone. And they did not want to have me wake up and realize that I had two major losses staring me in the face. So I think that was kind of the reason everybody else decided to do that. Dr. Min had spent probably a total of 24 hours, if not more, in the two or three surgeries that he had done in that week. And my thought was, okay, he's invested so much in it already. He must think it's worth a shot. So I guess I'll try it and see what happens. And, after the first few salvage surgeries, he brought up amputation again. Is this still the path you want to go down? And I agreed. I had faith in him. He was super humble. He never had the attitude that he was God and could fix everything. He was humble enough to talk with colleagues all over the country and get their input on it too. Here's my plan of what I want to try next. Do you think that's the right thing? Should I be trying something else? So I appreciated that as well, getting input from everyone else. And when I got to the point where I said, I think I want to amputate, he still had me go and see three other doctors just to go over everything with them, make sure I was fully at peace with that decision, that there wouldn't be any what ifs in my mind, and I could move forward without that burden.
Yeah. So very well planned out, thought out,
Mm-hmm.
checked all the boxes,
Mm-hmm.
made sure that this is the right thing for me. It's going to give me, hopefully, some level quality of life. And I find that fascinating when you sort of pivoted to, well, yeah, it was my family that was sort of in that headspace of sort of tethering my losses
Right.
and wanting to protect me from that situation. And I find that even for myself personally, so often I felt like I was sort of bearing the weight of their expectations. And I always felt as if I can make them feel comfortable, I'll be comfortable. And very often I felt as if I was the counselor, I was the therapist, I was the one reassuring them. Because when you look around at your family and you can see that they're like in crisis over your circumstance, I mean, how do I calm my mother down when she's crying to me?
Right.
And I'm the one that's lying here post-op.
Right.
It's a lot of weight. And I'm like, well, shouldn't everyone be carrying me right now?
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how much it does affect your little family.
Yeah, absolutely.
My mom was my main caregiver in those early days in the hospital. But then once I transitioned to my parents' house, my dad was in the process of retirement. So he was the one taking care of me the most. And then he's the one who had the biggest issue with me amputating. I was excited once I had it scheduled. And I remember coming back saying, "Hey, we got it scheduled. It's going to be August the 18th." And he just broke down in tears.
I was going to
And
say,
my dad has
broke
maybe
him,
cried 5 times my whole life. And
well, they were taking away a piece of his little girl.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's a perspective that I had not even considered as I was planning all of this. So I, had to sit down and say, look, if you want me to be bright and shiny Ginny again, I got to get off all these pain medicines, off these antibiotics. I got to be able to move. I got to be independent again. Otherwise, I'm just going to be murky, muddy, not happy Ginny all the time. And I can be so much better. And he came around pretty quickly, but I remember being so excited telling him, and he burst into tears, and it was like, oh, we have to kind of bring it back together now, explain things a little better.
Yeah, that reminds me of a moment I had with my dad where, I was just explaining to him, some of the support that I was receiving from a friend of mine, and seeing him like welling up, and again, similar to yourself, my dad like never shed a tear, like ever. I only heard him cry once in my entire life, and it was when his father died. And I was very young. And I remember hearing him in the other room, and I thought it was like a wounded animal.
Oh.
I thought, like, what is that sound? I'd never heard it before. And then it hit me like, oh shit, that's Dad. He's wailing in there. And to see it affect him, what I was going through, it really changed me. And I'd like to think that, we're of that breed where you never go down without swinging.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. And I've always sort of carried that around with me, that, the fight is worth it. If it means, being able to love yourself again. And, I know that for yourself, being an active person and, young and, very alive, going into, a traditional socket as, most amputees do, wasn't a good fit for you. You had dealt with some bone spurs, and I've heard this from other amputees, and I don't even know if this is necessarily a theory based in fact, but I know a few that went through, traumatic events that led to amputation, and this bone spur thing seems to pop up frequently, where if the amputation is due to some, kind of collision, trauma, traffic, whatever, that post-amputation, they have a tendency to develop some of those issues, which is almost like, kind of like a tooth, or almost like some kind of growth hook or something that comes
Like a
off the
hook or an
bone.
antler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's crazy is it has been studied, and it's even more common if there was a traumatic brain injury at
Mm,
the time of the traumatic event, which I definitely have because my helmet was knocked off.
yeah.
Thankfully, I don't have any other major side effects from that, but I do blame stuff on it. If I forget something, forget
Yeah.
your name, oh, I had traumatic brain injury, I'm sorry. But yeah, for the most part, no major side effects other than bone spurs.
Yeah. And what was what was the point where you started to worry, like, this isn't working? This like socket thing, this ain't happening, man.
I I have had, I think, 5 revisions for those bone spurs, and I think I only went back into one socket in between all of those surgeries, and I was only in it for about a month before another one was growing to the point that it was just too painful to wear.
Mm.
And that was it. I was like, all right, I'm just using crutches for the rest of my life. I had looked into osseointegration actually when I first became an amputee, but at the time it was only being done in limited trials in the United States. And I knew I didn't have the funds or really the desire to travel overseas to have anything done.
Well, wasn't it
So
approved in Australia?
I'm not sure the legality. I don't know what their FDA equivalent is, if they have anything like that. The main osseointegration implant that's being used in Australia is totally different from
Oh,
what
really?
I have.
Okay.
Not all osseointegration implants are not the same. And the one that I have, the Oprah implant system, is the only one that's FDA approved in the United States. And it currently only has that full FDA approval for above the knee transfemoral use. It can be done for other levels, but then requires a little bit more red tape and paperwork from the FDA, which is kind of what the other implants have to do for each patient. It's a case by case thing
Got it.
at this
Got
point.
it. So you had actually gone to a mental space of, well, I'm going to be in crutches.
Hmm.
I'm just going to be really efficient on one leg and I'm going to crutch for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then something magical happened, and talk to us about how osseointegration, which most of us know about in the amputee community, but if you don't, it's, where the hardware is, fused to the bone. And Ginny can explain it better. But when did that suddenly become like, oh, this is could be a reality for me?
So I knew that it had gotten FDA approval like towards the end of 2020, but I wasn't sure where it was being done, didn't really know where to start. So I just kind of wasn't even thinking about it. And then I had a friend within the prosthetics industry, Stephen Schulte, who reached out to me and he said, have you given any consideration to osseointegration? I know you've been struggling for a little while. And I said, yeah, but like, is my insurance going to cover it? And he said, yeah, it is now, since it has the FDA approval. And if you're interested, I'll be glad to put you in touch with some people to help you set up a consultation. So Schulte is really the one who kickstarted all of this for me. And I got on the phone with Kurt Collier with Integrum, and he helped me figure out where I wanted to go, who I needed to talk to. It was not a quick process for me. I had the initial x-rays and CT scans, but my femur was almost too short to have it done. And the bone was a little bit osteopenic from disuse. Not loading that bone, not working the bone, it kind of starts to disintegrate a little bit.
Yeah.
So, in order to be sure that this would work for me, they actually took my CT scan and 3D printed several models of my limb and did like trial surgeries on it, ran a bunch of tests just to be sure that it would be stable enough for me to proceed. So I had my initial consultation in March of 2021, and I did not have the first surgery until October of that year. And it's a
Okay.
2 surgery process. If you're familiar with dental implants at all, it's the exact same thing. P.I. Brandemark invented dental implants. His son, Ricard Brandemark, developed that a little bit further to be used for limbs and digits. So first surgery, all they're doing is placing the fixture in the bone. They're also doing a little bit of a bone graft at the end of the bone to kind of bulk things up, because then in the second surgery, a few months later, they'll attach the abutment, the metal piece that sticks out of the limb, and they're also able to attach skin to the end of the bone. This is unique to the Oprah implant, and I think that's a big reason why it has FDA approval. Because by attaching the skin to the end of the bone, it allows that to heal. So it's a tighter closure, less of a highway for things going in and out. It's usually drier, no drainage, weepage, anything like that. And once that surgery is done, you heal up for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you start this process of loading the bone directly. And you have to start out slow. I think the initial protocol said start out with 40 pounds of weight, but that was a general rule. And me only weighing 100 pounds and not using those muscles in several years, I actually had to start at 5 pounds of weight and add 5 to 10 pounds a week until I got to 80% of my body weight. And then I was able to attach the full prosthesis and begin my physical therapy to really learn how to walk again. A unique thing with osseointegration is that now that those muscles aren't constricted inside a socket, the muscles are able to work as they were intended to work. So it's kind of a new thing all over again. And those muscles have to wake up and realize, oh, we have to go back to work. So it can be a lengthy and a grueling process. But I think if you can invest the time, it's worth it if you're having so many other issues that you're not able to work and function as you need to. So totally, totally worth it for me.
And as long as you're embracing movement, those whatever atrophy you experienced in that dormant state, all those muscles will wake up again eventually. And I feel the same way in terms of, even as, a below the knee with a traditional socket, there was so many things that, I didn't expect. So many weight-bearing, bizarre counterbalance issues, suddenly like, oh, I can't wear those shoes and I can't do this. I can't go on this surface. And thinking that, okay, if I'm patient, because it's a process, and I work through it day by day, month by month, and then you look back and say, well, gosh, I mean, had I known I'd be at this point now, several years ago, that would have certainly been helpful, which goes back to, press into the community a bit, because when you start talking to people that are a little more proficient than you and they have a little more experience, it's very encouraging. Like, I'll get DMs all the time, which I'm sure you do as well, of, okay, I love the big open-ended question, right? I'm getting ready for my surgery next week. What do I expect? ? And I'm like, oh shit. Like, what do you expect? I'm like, a fucking hell ride. That's what you should expect.
Yeah, it's a ride. And that's one of those things that everybody's journey is so vastly different. Like, you cannot explain to the T everything that's going to happen. The biggest open-ended question I get is, how long before I'm walking again? I can't answer that for you. I've seen some patients like full force 100% in 2 to 3 months after their second surgery.
Yeah.
And then some people take well over a year or 2 years to get to that point. I mean, everybody's body is different. Everybody's makeup is different. Everybody's situations, their surroundings.
I mean, if someone asked me, because I'll get this one, when am I going to feel normal?
Yeah.
This normal word. And I'm really transparent. If you were to ask me, when did you feel normal? When did you feel like you could work, you could play, you could appear as if you're normal? It was 2 years for me.
Yeah.
It was 2 years. It was navigating all these new systems, all of these practitioners, all of the insurance issues, all of finding, the right system, the right hardware, what activities work for me, which ones are destructive, which ones are constructive, just getting used to the new me, and then realizing this is just a massive exercise in adaptation.
Right.
How do I get around, the cones? And, but I do agree that there are others with, higher fitness levels, who knows, maybe more determination, more grit, that can muscle through things. I mean, I was like 6 months in and I was already back in like wound therapy because I was developing all kinds of pressure wounds and I didn't have the right, socket. I didn't have the right system. I didn't have the right support, in the clinical space, all of those things. But that was part of the process. And I see very often, especially in social media, where it's, I'm not getting all the good stuff. I'm not getting the right gear. I'm not getting the right people. I'm giving up. And it's okay to grieve that moment. It's okay to be down. Having a down day is not a total loss. But we have to go back to the table and say, what can I do differently? The recipe is not working, right? The cake's not baking. So what can I change to make it work for me? And like you said, press into the idea that it's different for everybody. There is no, perfect path to glory. And it's just going to be a trial and error. You're going to have to fail forward and realize that all of your successes are going to be built on a mountain of failure. That's just how it is. And so often someone may, meet you, see you, engage you in the now and not put into perspective the way back then.
Oh yeah,
And
I get that all the time on social media, and my friend Angelina, Adaptive Amputees on social media,
shout out
she
for
gets it.
Angelina. I
Yeah,
actually messaged her the other day.
we love Angelina, but
She's awesome.
we commiserate together with comments we get. But so often people will look at something she's doing or something I'm doing, and they say, "Oh, I can't do that. I wish I could do that." Well, that must be easy for you because you're young, and that it breaks my heart a little bit. And maybe that's not the right activity for you, but what are you capable of doing? Have you tried doing these things? Have you talked with your physical therapist about the things that you want to try? I'm a big proponent of physical therapy, and sometimes you got to go back for a refresher. It's not just a couple of sessions and you're done. If there's something you really want to try, get a prescription for physical therapy. Go back, ask your physical therapist, here's what I'm looking at doing. Are there any things that you can help me do to strengthen these muscles or activities I can do to try to prepare myself to attempt these activities? And they'll be glad to help you out. And they might even do those activities with you once you're able to do it. They might go do yoga with you. They might go climb that rock wall with you. But look for ways to pursue that if that's something you want to do. Don't just say, well, I can't do that. That's not for me. And not even think about an avenue to try it. At least try.
Yeah. It's great advice. You have to self-advocate and you truly have to love yourself like your life depends on it. And you have to find resources and you have to build a personal plan and you have to take the tools that people are giving you and you have to apply them to your everyday life. It's the only way to navigate this. And yeah, if that means, your physical, your fitness level up in your game, you got to do it. If that means getting mentally healthy, building your support team in terms of, family, friends, people that are your best cheerleaders, those are the people that you want to press into. The negative energy, I'm sorry, you have to let that go. You just have to. If that is dragging you, slowing you down, if it's ball and chaining you, you've got to be you have to be fierce enough to say, I have to let that go. And I was listening to an interview that you gave where you were talking about support groups, and I had a similar experience where I wanted to engage some of that. And I struggled with it, similar to yourself, where it became a very, very negative experience for me. It was unfortunately very negative space. And it was essentially a group of people that wanted to come together essentially to air their grievances. And there wasn't enough positive energy for me. And I realized pretty early, like, I got to detach myself from this because I feel like this is actually going to slow me down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that some form of trauma bonding is not helpful. We all sort of relate through our struggle, through our loss. But when it's actually impeding your ability to move forward and it sort of pauses you right where you're at, where you can't, just kind of get yourself out of that pothole, it's dangerous. And I would encourage everyone to find those energies that sort of revitalize them, give them a reset, and get them going again. When you first saw, that implant, on the end of your residual limb, I mean, what went through your mind? I mean, because I think, okay, am I a patient? Am I a cyborg? Like, what am I exactly? you know?
I kind of looked at it as like the most gnarly piercing you could get. I mean, it's pretty gnarly.
It
Uh,
is.
it was wild to see, but also exciting because I knew that that was the avenue for something that was going to change my life. And it absolutely has. So it never really freaked me out. So many people have asked, doesn't that freak you out? Weren't you freaked out by that sticking out of your leg? No, because it was going to give me the future that I wanted. I hadn't been able to walk for years. So if I got to have a piece of metal sticking out of my leg to walk, that's not freaky or scary at all. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. And when you say your future, I'm such a sci-fi guy. So I'm thinking if I saw that, I'd be like I'm the future. Like
Right. The
I'm
future is
in
now.
the future is now. Like I'm part
Yeah.
of that sci-fi movie right now.
Yeah.
This is really, really cool. And I know previously when we spoke, we got into some body image stuff. And when someone would describe that, let's use a word, graphic, what do you think that says about that person when they describe, that piece of hardware in your residual limb as graphic?
Oh, it just tells me that they're a little bit ignorant and that maybe they haven't ever come to face with needing a very specific assistive device. I think if you're looking at it as graphic, you're not seeing the bigger picture of what it's allowing me to do. You're only seeing, well, that looks gross, and not even thinking about, yeah, but now she's able to walk. Now she's able to not use crutches. She can hold her partner's hand now. She can go work out and do hot yoga and not worry about her prosthetic limb falling off from sweat.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about all of the things that it's allowing me to do.
Yeah. So I would agree. It's a huge demonstration of ignorance. And I appreciate that in you putting yourself out there, and so much of your social media, which I follow, is basically explaining how your system works
Mm-hmm.
and normalizing it, destigmatizing it, getting people familiar with the idea, the concept. And I think that's so important in terms of your mission and the work that you do, to be able to share that in a way that removes all of that sort of strange ignorance or
Mm-hmm.
awkwardness that people feel when they see limb loss. And I would say when I was post-op in a wheelchair, not even in a prep socket yet, but just kind of wheeling around with that, residual limb kind of dangling there, those reactions had a huge impression on me.
Yeah.
The spectrum of reactions, it would be the terrified look, like, oh my gosh, like that's like a horror movie, or, sort of like the hyper disappointed look, like,
Hmm.
oh no. Um, and of course, on that spectrum, there's also the curiosity, the genuine, innocent kind of curiosity of, what happened, and almost a caring kind of patient sort of curiosity. Um, but you've done a very good job of sort of building that bridge into a conversation and allowing people sort of into that intimate space. Um, I know that one of the images that I was sort of blown away by personally was when you did the when you were doing like a runway for like a swimwear
Hmm.
line, and what was going through your mind in that moment? Because first of all, describe to me a little bit more about the event
Sure.
in terms of like what it was. Because for me, my experience was sort of keyhole perspective in that I saw that image of you, and of course, it like punched me in the head, like, holy cow, like that is power right there.
Hmm.
And sort of walk me through what that event was, and then kind of lead me down that path of what it represented for you.
Sure. So every year, I think for the last 4 or 5 years, the Skin I'm In talent agency does a fashion week, and it is benefiting some charity. Usually, the last couple of years, it's been benefiting Be More Adaptive, which is run by Caitlin Connor,
Yeah,
another
I
below the
know
knee
Caitlin. We've interviewed
amputee.
her. Yep,
Yeah.
she's
So
she's awesome.
Caitlin is actually the one who connected me to this event, and I was not scheduled to appear in the swimwear line. That was
No
a
kidding.
last minute, like 2 hours before the show. We were all there getting things ready, hair and makeup, and the designer of the swim line looked at me and she said, "Are you in my line?" And I said, I don't think so. She said, "Swim Legazel?" And I said, "No." And she said, "You're going to be. Come here." And she took me over and pulled a swimsuit out and said, "Go put this on."
What raced through
And
your mind in that moment?
well, first of all, I was thinking, thank goodness for Hotworks for getting my body in shape for this. And second of all, what? So I put on this swimsuit, and it's small. It's small for sure. So yeah, I was a little bit nervous, but then my next thought was, wait, where is this in the lineup? Because I'm going to have to do a wardrobe change, and I got to see how fast I have to move in between. So the swim was first, and then the fully clothed line was later. But yeah, it was a little bit shocking because that was not supposed to happen. I'm glad it did, because
Yeah,
like you said, those images were pretty freaking powerful, and I'm
yeah, pretty badass.
really really proud of them. Very
Yeah,
very proud.
yep. Yeah, so I was not aware that that was like a last minute kind of, you're
Yeah.
doing this, like,
y-
huh?
yep.
I'm doing
just
what?
just that's kind of how I deal with life. I roll like a rolling stone. Just gotta go with it. Go with it.
And I feel like those types of images um, are so important in the community, and to really represent in that way carries a lot of weight, and it carries a lot of responsibility. And sometimes I wonder, for people like yourself who have a tremendous following, eh, do you ever feel on your off days, because we all have them, do you ever feel like beholding to some of that, like the weight of that?
I do think that if I were to just give it all up and throw it away, I would be doing a disservice to the community, but also to myself. Because at the end of the day, I do think, despite all of the mess on social media, I get a lot of hate, but I get a lot of love. And my whole goal was to educate and help other people. So anytime I help one person, that helps me heal just a little bit more from all of the trauma that I've been through. And it makes it all worth it. So I'll continue to do it because selfishly it helps me.
Yeah.
It does make me feel good to know that there's one person that I've helped. And you know what? Maybe I'll help somebody else again tomorrow.
And I will echo that as well. I came to this, this podcast in a very self-serving kind of attitude, which was, I really want to talk to these people. I really get this amazing energy from these kind of conversations. It really helps me stay on my path, and it keeps reminding me that I'm part of something much bigger than myself. Right. And it was sort of self-serving. Like, I want to talk, because I being a new amputee, and I'm looking at the images, and I'm seeing this lifestyle, and all of these things. Whether I'm searching online or I'm on social media or wherever, and I keep thinking, well, what are they like? Like, what's their lives like? What are their struggles like? What are their down days look like? Do they look like mine? Are they different? I'm watching some Paralympic athlete achieve incredible things, and then to talk to them and hear about their substance abuse, or to hear about how they hurt themselves so badly they couldn't train for a month, and to be able to humanize their experience and continue to spotlight, like, hey, these people are struggling. I know it's really easy to get caught up in the glamour and sort of the sexiness of it and get jealous, but these are just human beings, and they go through the same shit that you're going through, man. And you may not see it because that's not what they're necessarily projecting on the daily basis, but it's there. And that helped me understand that when I am having a really difficult day, that it's normal. Yeah. It's completely normal. It's completely acceptable. And when you mention, like, there's hate out there, things like that. And I mean, are you comfortable at least, like, kind of riffing on that a little bit? What's your experience in the negative space of sort of putting yourself out there, and you might even have those moments where you're like, oh, I don't even know if I should be doing this anymore. Like, these people they're driving me crazy.
Well, what's really cool is that now I've gotten to the point where usually if there's a really, really horrible comment, so many other people will chime in on my behalf and be like, get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't seen anything. So
you got your soldiers now.
I got an army. I got a whole army behind me. But yeah, now I have to laugh at it because it does come from a place of ignorance. And you know what? Sometimes I'll give it right back to them. I'll have fun with it. And I put all of these people on blast. I have no problem sharing your name and info with the world.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally get it. The other thing I wanted to ask you, maybe in more of a closing kind of segment, is someone comes to you, brand new baby bird amputee, and they have all those open-ended questions. What would be the advice you would give them at this point in time?
I really try to drive home how important physical therapy is. And actually having a good physical therapist who will also have a relationship with the prosthetist. Everybody really has to work together for this to be successful. Everybody has to be willing to work with the patient and each other. So I tell people, once you start this process, if you don't have a cohesive team, you are well within your rights to change that. And I know that's not fun, but don't sign for anything that's not feeling right for you. And make a move if you have to, because at the end of the day, this is the rest of your life that you're working on. So you want to have the best team that you can.
It's great advice. And I would certainly echo that by saying, do not settle for anything less than the best experience possible. And just don't give up, keep working, keep trying. If one system doesn't work, try another. And
Try everything.
try it all. Exactly.
That's another thing
And
people don't realize is you can try out different components, knees and feet. And if you have a prosthetist who is just forcing you into one particular thing and you want to try other things, switch prosthetists, because you can certainly try things before you buy. It's like test driving a car.
Yep. And I've done it myself where I thought, am I starting this over? Yes, I am starting this over because I'm worth it. And thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for going a little deeper into your world and your experience. And I'm really glad that we were able to do a longer form interview with you. And hey, don't be a stranger.
Likewise.
I really appreciate what you bring to the community. Are you going to the conference, the coalition conference?
I will be in Vegas.
All right,
Let's
awesome.
go.
I'll see you out there because I'm actually traveling on business during that, but I am going to find time to sneak over and at least bump into a few friends, few people I've interviewed, and try to learn a little bit along the way. So that's going to wrap it up for us. And there's the dog right there on cue.
Right there at the end.
Which one is this one? Because you have two, right?
Yeah, Luna is the bigger bark.
Okay.
Luna is the Irish doodle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who just barked?
That was Luna.
That was
Luna.
Luna.
You might have gotten a little yip from Milo. Milo's the Yorkie.
Wow, that's cute. I love it.
We almost made it through.
Yeah, no, it's real life. I love the authenticity of that. Gini Thomas, thank you so much for being here. My name's Rick Bontkowski. Thank you for listening to the AMP'D UP211 podcast. I want to wish everyone health and happiness, and we'll see you next time.